Good morning, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Friday. It is Tuesday at 8:14 a.m. right now in beautiful Marietta, Georgia. And I don't have Rhett in here because I think in about the next half hour or so, my son will be dropping off his dogs. So chaos will definitely get us. And so, I just want to kind of keep a stable environment for her. So yesterday we finished up the final sort of part of this development life cycle that I've been working on that is insanely slow, um, but we're learning a lot during the process, and just trying out things like unit testing and end-to-end testing, things like that. So I am all done. I cannot remember exactly. I know with anytime I'm like it seems like in all my projects the way I do commits sort of varies from project to project, like the messages that I put in. And I do like to, once I've sort of established one a methodology of doing messages, I do like to kind of stick with it. I think in this project I tend to say what the video that I did the commit in was. So I just looked that up, and so this is going to be video 269. So git log. I'm just going to say git log so that I can see what I said. Okay, so that one I didn't actually. Removes Angular material. Video 2A3 begins update of visualization layout. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't put the video. I think video, it's going to be helpful though. Okay, so this is going to be video 269. Man, it was a long time between videos. Well, that's 238, and then a dash, and then uh, uh, I don't know what all we did in this, because this is removes Angular material map menu. Oh, we removed routing for I think yeah, I hit Q and that got me out of that mode. So git commit dash M and then put two apostrophes and then video 269 removed routing to address detached node issue. And so we'll hit. Oh, I did not add anything. So I'm gonna hit enter. It won't do anything, but I can hit the up key to get back to this commit again. So there's nothing to commit because we don't have anything staged. I have no idea why we use the word staged as opposed to added, but we do use the stage. We use the add command to stage things. I would have I think it would be better if they called it staged, use the stage command to stage things, or use the add command to add things, but for some reason we separated those words. Um, so basically, before I like to kind of look at individual files before I add them. So sometimes I'll just kind of look over all of them, and I don't know why it's not kind of showing me before and after. It might be because, yeah, that didn't exist yet, so that's why. But I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, so that looks good. This is just a spec file types. Okay, so here we can see basically we added a new layout type of empty string. So basically that is indicative that the browser is just like at localhost 4200 or whatever the URL this happens to be, and that there's nothing there. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think it will break anything. I think everything will work just fine, even if we're at an actual URL. So we did make a lot of changes in this app layout component, and it makes sense because we did have to. It really there was a lot of code changes that were required when we got rid of routing. I didn't realize I was like kind of coupling my code to the router destroying the object. Um, and it should, in retrospect, it's obvious that I had that coupling, but I just didn't think about it. Okay, so we added some new unit tests, or a bunch of new unit tests. I'm sure that was in an attempt to get to 100%. App tabular layout is going to be very similar to the other one. Just kind of looking for, comments that I don't want to be there, or console logs. Um, that looks good. It's just adding a new unit test. We moved the table out of this, which then, before I moved these tables out, what was happening was that um, I would have a detached node, a single table detached node. Once I put it, once I moved the table in here, which it should have been, it doesn't make sense that it would be three tables. It's one table with three rows, but now I have three row detached nodes from time to time. And that is a bit of a hint that basically something I'm doing with this ST renderers is what's causing that. So we are going to change that. And I do think that this is like tangentially related to the way Signals works versus the way RxJS works. Um, so that looks good. This is our unit test. Looks good. I think this was us deleting stuff in our routes. We didn't need the routes to exist because Angular got very upset when we had when we were hitting routes that don't exist. So basically, we created this dummy component that doesn't do anything, um, but it gets generated. It's the component that's associated with the route, but the component would only be rendered if we had a router outlet. If we use the router outlet component, we don't use the router outlet component, so there's that. Looks like I have some unused stuff in here. It's kind of a bummer. Let's go in here and see. So it says I never used this computed here, and I never used signal. It's just like the color is a bit muted, and then it looks like I never used this router. And just in my personal experience, I've never seen that be a problem. I guess since we have our end-to-end test, it makes sense to, since we did make changes to the code, to run the end-to-end test just to ensure that everything still works. So I'll do that. Yeah, this is where we kind of converted over from using router outlet to determine whether something is visible or not to CSS. And CSS is kind of like the way people used to do things like that. Use CSS to hide and show things very heavily, like in between 2005 and 2015. Um, so it's a very effective way to do things. I've seen it scaled out to such a point that it's very difficult. But as you see, we actually render all three of our components now. Um, all three of our layout components now, and we just choose to hide them or show them. The advantage to that is that, I mean, so the disadvantage of that is that now we have these DOM elements, but the advantage is with when we were using the router to do it, we were creating detached elements. So every time we moved around, we were actually creating a whole new set of elements that then got detached that were still in the browser, but they weren't doing anything. So it was kind of like, do you want to have one version of each one of these sitting there hidden, or do you want to have thousands of versions as you're moving around? So I went with the one version. Um, I do think this will resolve itself. It's like something I probably could have just ignored. Um, all right, so then it looks like I never did undelete this. So let's go ahead and undelete all those. We wanted to run all the unit tests anyways. So I'm glad I didn't just commit that stuff, or we would have lost this test. and not the unit test, the end-to-end test. So we would have lost that end-to-end test. We would have had it commented out. So losing it isn't right. And then it's always fun to look at what did I do in the packages. It looks like I added two new. No, I added one new service called the current route service. All right, so before we actually commit this, let's go ahead and run our tests. So npm run Cypress open. Since we have a bit of time, the reason that works is because of this. So that is that. Does take a minute for Cypress to open up. Cypress, I think, is an absolute game changer. I do not think so back in the 90s, whenever I was doing interviews, I used to always talk about how like every application that I ever worked on sort of just crumbled once it hit about 10,000 lines of code. So we would use like an MVC sort of pattern. So basically, before the MVC pattern, it seemed like every sort of JavaScript application that I ever worked on would just sort of crumble at 1,000, and then about 1,000 lines of code, it just was just almost impossible to sort of keep track of what's going on. But when we kind of split things up into model, view, and controllers, it became a lot. You could kind of get up to like 10,000 lines of code before things just went sideways. Um, and then um, and then and then these frameworks came out, and I don't really think there is a limit to the size. Like it's easy if you're careful, you can just keep building on these things, and they can go pretty much forever. But the problem is, from a coding perspective, they don't just fall apart. Problem is that what happens is you end up building things, and then when you go build other things, you end up breaking things that you built before. And Cypress to me is the answer to that question, to that problem. Um, I don't think you could build an application that has more than maybe like 80 or 90 pieces of functionality before when you try to build like the 100th piece of functionality, you broke three other pieces of functionality, and you need a way to automatically test all those things. Um, so anyway, so now, and that's what Cypress I think brings. That's the piece of the puzzle that Cypress brings, or end-to-end testing in general. And Cypress seems to work really well. Cypress I think works really really well for like front end because it's in JavaScript. So like if you have a very good JavaScript programmer, he already or she already knows how to write in the language, so that's like one less thing to worry about. Um, the domain is different, but um, but it's nice. But like if you do some of the other ones that require that Java or C Sharp or something, then it's a lot more challenging. So we're able to get through the first three. I don't think we're gonna have any problems. The thing is, I don't know if I can tell when a test is completely done if I'm in a hurry. Um, Maybe it's the time there, since I see it was 6 seconds. See, I guess once it stops, I guess once that stops growing, that um, that it's done. So we're watching this little time here, this little clock. So once it hits whatever, yeah, once it sits at the same time for a little bit, I swear that is just so cool. I cannot. I'm really looking forward to. Um, it's so weird that it says O1 home when we just did resize. That's definitely a bug on their side. So we saw that it was the reflow spec, but see, it's not changing that. It's changing the time, but it's not changing the name right there. Update routing. AR is for aspect ratio. And I think I can't remember. I know that the 200s is for testing properties. The 100s I think is I don't know what those are for anymore. And then the zeros are for like basic foundational um, tests. I don't know. I can't remember. I wish I maybe yeah. I wish I'd have sort of written it down in it's like a README or something. Um, on the Cypress EDE would have been nice. But anyway, so it looks like those all passed. I think the best way to close this is just like that at the X. So we're done with that. And in our DOS key, I think this is called a DOS key, we have our commit. Everything is staged. We added them all, so now they're all staged. Nothing is in the changed. So we go like that. Git and push. And then we have, I believe we have a new issue, or one more issue with detached nodes to sort of deal with. I don't, I didn't used to really worry much about, let's go here, um, memory leaks, but, and I don't think it is that big of a deal in most, like literally 99 out of 100 applications. But in the one, like if I've noticed that like when you get these big suites and you're working in them and you're clicking around that they just slowly get slower and slower and slower and slower. And the fix is to refresh, and that for most suites that's not a big deal, right? It's just like you're saving as you go, things are going on. But this specific one, I can imagine someone spending hours and hours and hours sort of working on a visualization to make it just right. And if the whole thing crashed after they spent hours and hours and hours working on it, I think I would be, that's awful. And then also, I kind of just want to learn how to deal with these detached nodes. And I think this is an issue that will probably just take care of itself, either on the browser side or something. I mean, if the browser knows it's a detached node, I don't know why it doesn't just delete them. So it probably will at some point. But in the meantime, I would like to kind of understand it. So this is like kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. But so right now, I don't think we have any detached nodes. It would actually be interesting to run like the end-to-end tests and watch and look at the detached nodes. But if I take a snapshot at this point, I don't believe I'll have any detached nodes. But my understanding, if I remember correctly, if I go like this, and I close this guy, and then if I run a snapshot again, I still don't think I have any detached nodes, but there might be. Sometimes there's these like very limited detached nodes that are like just like a style. They don't seem to have any guts in them though, so I'm not worried that they're big. But if I go to a different view and then I run, I still don't think I'll have any. Okay, I do have these like this ng component ripple loader and those, but I don't think I'm not worried about these. I don't think I will worry. I may decide to worry about those, but I don't think I will. And then let's say I come into one of these things, and I still don't think I'll have any detached nodes. Oh, so I do. So right now I have 3 detached nodes, and that seem like they are beefy. Um, one of them has 24. It is odd that one of them has 24 children, and then the other two have 22 children. But as you see, there's a lot of these, and I don't know like how beefy these are, but it seems to me that they are probably keeping each one of them probably has its own set of styles. Each of them probably has all kinds of stuff like that. So I don't want these to be around. So that is what I want to fix next. And so it seems to be very specific to the tabular layout. So let's go ahead and go to the tabular layout. Um, I have definitely been thinking a lot more in terms of architecture. So historically, I probably would have just gone to the tabular layout and looked for something in there to search on and then done a search in here. But I'm trying to think in a little bit more of a uh, architectural perspective and trying to like sort of imagine how everything lays out. And so I know that in components, I do have a section called layouts. Yeah. Um, and as I go, I have a tabular layout. And I think the problem is we were just looking at this. So let me close others. Is this ST renders, the way I'm manipulating the ST renders, I think is the culprit here. And see, when I run this effect, and we just got done working on this. That's the only reason. Um, and I guess I'll leave this open. Now, when it's sort of like in, I can't remember what this font is called, where it's sort of leaned over and a little bit different. When it's in that layout, that means if you leave it, it'll close, I believe. Oh, it didn't. Sometimes I don't know. I don't know. In some circumstance, maybe if I go here, yeah. See, I just lost it. But if you don't want to lose it, then what you need to. So if I go back to here, see, in this case, I do want to lose it, right? Because I didn't want that style. So, but if I want to keep it, I can do that. Now, I don't know if you can do it the other way around. No. So you can't toggle it back to where it would close if you moved around. And I don't know, yeah, like you can move around in tabs and it doesn't, but if you launch a new tab, it'll close the old one if it's italicized. That's the word. Um, so this ST renders. So this will get me the renders, but it gets me a new set of renders. So basically what it does is it takes this array and it just wipes it out. But I think I would rather it update the array. And I don't know if, and I don't know what the best way to do that is. Basically, it's just like I would rather the array be updated in place as opposed to destroyed and recreated. Um, Now I remember I did an interview once, um, and like it was like one of these places where like everybody you were working with was they were all graduates of Georgia Tech and they were all just like they were super geniuses and they were way too smart for their own good, right? Like for the most part, like it was very difficult for them to write code for regular people to use because they just couldn't get on the same level with just typical people. Um, like they were the kinds of people that like if you said, uh, what day, what sequence of the Fibonacci sequence matches up with the day of the month next Wednesday, they could instantly give you an answer. So, like in their minds, they could easily figure out what day of the month next Wednesday was, and then they could then do all the Fibonacci sequence, and then they could tell you that number. So, they could do all that stuff. So to them, they couldn't quite understand why some people would struggle with certain password situations and things like that. And just remembering things from page to page and stuff like that. So that was hard, and they were aware of that. So I did work at another place where it was a bunch of people like that, and they were not aware that they weren't just like their brains weren't just average brains. But these people were aware of it, and they they gave me like a test to get the job, and it was like to change to sort something in place, not to delete it. And I was just like, they're like, how would you sort an array? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, well, dot reverse. And that changes the sorting. And they were like, no, I mean like in place. And I'm like, and they're like, we deal with massive data structures. They're just huge and there's not enough memory to create a new one. So you have to sort it in place. So how do you do that? And so we went around and around. They ended up hiring me even though I didn't ever quite understand what their question was until after I kind of got to think about it for a while. Um, they did hire me, and I got a lot of work done for them, but the it was wild because then we had like this big meeting where we were trying to figure out how to do something, and we were working with this team from the Dominican Republic, and they were talking about doing something. I was like, wait, I thought that we don't sort things that way. I thought we sorted things in place, and I remember everyone just got quiet. So in real life, they didn't do this, but they did expect in the interview for you to understand it. It was kind of weird. Um, but anyways, I need to take this and it's going to return that, but I want it to either, I want it to, in a reasonable way, determine whether it needs to take everything from this renderers array, whether it needs to, whether it's already represented, so leave it alone, or whether it is new. And I don't know if there, I think a renderer does have an ID. So, um, I think what we want to do is, I guess we need to look at ST renderers. So I do have a renderer ID, and they are unique. So I could definitely um, determine whether something is already in there or not in there. Um, but so this is an interesting challenge, right? The goal is, and we don't even know if this is going to fix the problem. Okay, so the overall goal is to fix the problem of detached nodes. And the theory, the hypothesis is that when we delete the whole array as opposed to manipulate the existing array, it's causing the elements on the browser to get detached. That's the hypothesis. We do not know if that's true. Um, so one, we could do some tests and try to, like do this from like the scientific method and be like, oh, okay, let's test an example and see if there's a attached node and all that. But I'd rather just try the fix. And if the fix fixes it, just assume that that was the problem, as opposed to, like, I don't give a crap about science. I just want the project to work. This is not a science experiment. This is a coding experiment. Um, but and I don't know exactly how the best way to pose this to ChatGPT. Um, so I'm going to come in here and then I'm going to say, okay, so um, trying to fix an issue in my Angular 20 project. The issue is that as I navigate through the project, I am creating detached nodes. Nodes. The nodes are table rows. Rows. Um, okay. I in my template, I am iterating. I always spell this wrong. I think maybe it's the two T's. Over an array. Uh, when I navigate to the page, I oh no, away, I delete the array by replacing it with a new array. Then when I navigate to the page, I overwrite the empty array. I think that this might be why I am creating detached nodes. All right, so yes, your Rich is like correct. Detached nodes form a memory leak. In Angular, usually happens with DOM elements created like tr rows aren't properly destroyed or released when the component view is changed. Let's break down carefully. Yeah, so this is exactly what I'm doing, right? Something along these lines. And then when I do this, I do that, and then, but you're using the same component. The parent component's cache. If or Angular changes, it still references the old containers. And I guess this is what's happening. But it's kind of weird because Angular change detection I thought would be in JavaScript, and supposedly detached rows are things that there's no reference in JavaScript to. Um, okay, so now I think it makes sense to tell it what the so so this is the definition of the array. Array. It's a good starting point now. And I think we're basically now I don't it's saying that I could just that should usually just store old rules clean, but if the component is being kept for alive, for example. Okay. So I think that is interesting. Um, oh, track by. Ooh. I wonder if that would. Oh no, see, I am tracking by. Okay, so oh no, I don't have my computer plugged in. Disaster averted. Okay, I guess I should show it this. Okay, so here's my. Okay, this is my um row markup. Track function, similar to track. That's good. It means Angular already knows how to reuse the DOM. So yeah, so I don't know about that. Julie is not because of track by. Okay. Okay, so I never actually destroy it. So I guess I should let it know I never actually destroy the component. Just hide it via CSS. Or you're getting detached nodes. The DOM nodes, yeah. But see, the thing is, are still alive, just not visible. I can destroy only when the template structure changes. So as I leave, I guess I should. Uh, okay, so yeah, so when I do that, um, it just breaks the binding reference division, but it leaves allocated memory. So I don't think this is because it's hidden, but yeah, and I think this is crap. Um, okay, so and that if I delete the elements inside of array. Navigate back. The rows would be taken care of properly. Instead, and I'll put in parentheses here. Instead of what do I say? Instead of just placing itself. Changes the behavior. It looks like that's what's happening if you do this. The Angular sees new array reference. Now, if instead you do this, like this array, or this, splice 0, this array length, instead of replace it. So it's saying that I could set it, existing, why it works, and when it doesn't. All right. Yeah, so I am not worried about this. I do not think this is the larger memory problem. And I think if I push back, it'll immediately be like, "Oh, you're right." But so flush on clean up. Okay, so all right. So basically, what I think I want to try to do, based on going back and forth, I'm not going to do exactly what it said, but it seems like the deleting is all I need to worry about. I don't think I need to worry about the adding. So I think when I replace the empty array with an actual value, when I come back, that'll be fine. I think. I don't know, but I think. So I think I want to say const new renders equals and then I want to say it's claiming if I set the length to 0, which I am not familiar with that. I know it's shown me that before, but if new renders dot length is equal to 0, and else, and then so otherwise we're just going to set it to the new renders. So we're taking a 0 length thing, and there's no reason to recalculate all that stuff, so I'm just going to say new renders. And then otherwise, this dot st renders dot length is equal to 0. See what happens. First of all, we just got to see if it even works at all. Add viz. Boom. And then, so right now we'll just double check that we don't have. So let's clear all of this because this is from last time. Let's just double check we don't have any. Okay, so we just have those little ones. I'm not worried about those. Then so we do have one this time. No, we still have them. Okay, so that did not work. That's a shame. Oh, but it did say to run this change detector. I don't know. I think I have my insert. And I'm just going to do this. I don't think that's going to help, but I was really hoping that would have been enough. All right, so let's try this again. And I guess we need to make sure that's actually resetting, that we're actually getting console.log reset. Inspect console, and basically in the, see that's clear. So it's already reset 3 times. Okay, so now we are going to add 1, 2, 3. We're going to go into this other view. Let's close that. Then we're going to hit update. Okay, so reset got called. And now we're going to go to memory. We're going to do take a snapshot. Yeah, it still has, even though I reset it and I called the detect changes immediately, um, it didn't take care of the issue. So that's kind of a bummer. I doubt that has anything to do with, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to think. We'll have to try to figure something else out. Um, yeah, and like I said, I'm not sure exactly where to go from here. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. It's 8:56, so I got to start working in a few minutes. Bye.